Yeah, but Noah, we have Jeff Orrick, Nancy Barnhart. Jeff's the chief meteorologist. Nancy is the under chief meteorologist. And they're going to talk to us about some new innovations. Going to talk about the system, going to talk about what they have to offer, and should prove to be very interesting. I do have one paid announcement that's going to come up right now. Our social chairman is, Commodore is going to talk here. Why don't you take the little mic? Just
Okay. Hello, my name is Oren Banner, and actually I'm going to wear a different hat real quick. I'm also president of a Kiwanis Club, and I'm here to schlep tickets for a chili cook-off on March 8th. It's a Sunday at Kazi's Comedy Club. The tickets are only $10. It's all chili you can eat. There'll be about 11 or 12 vendors there. So if you'd like to buy tickets to help support Kiwanis, or you don't know what Kiwanis is, ask me. I'll be glad to tell you. Probably bang your ear about it. Now we'll move over to Old Point Comfort. We have a lot of things lined up on the social side this year. We're going to add a few things. We're looking at doing a game night. We're looking at trying to have 2 events every month of some sort. So we will be feeding that in as things come up. We're trying to also have as many, you read The Last Helmsman. Valentine's Day event will be a week later than Valentine's Day, but it will be Valentine's. We're also sliding in a good little Irish in March for St. Patrick's Day. We've already gone through and figured out about 15 dishes I can make that are Irish related. My ex-wife, whose last name is Coonahan, isn't much help in telling me what I should be making, even though she even speaks to me. But we're going to have, more themed type events that we can come up with. And Ken has basically given me carte blanche to run with it. And so that's what we're going to do. So read the Helmsman, read the emails, give me input. I'm not non-subject to hearing criticism, or even if it's not constructive criticism. So let me know, and we'll move forward so we can have an enjoyable club to work with. That's the end.
okay.
I'm done. There's your mic back.
I just want to mention the schedule is shaping up, especially for February. March, we're pretty well full of subjects, but next week, Norm Evinger is going to give us a first aid. It's going to be on first aid.
First aid afloat.
So if you're interested in that subject,
Care about your people as soon as you unload and let go of the lines. You're more than 5 minutes away from definitive care. So you probably need to learn how to take care of your loved ones so that they literally don't pass away while you're on the boat. So we'll go over some of those things and try to fit as much in an hour and a half or 2.5 hours or however long y'all want to stay at.
thanks, Norm. Okay, without further ado, Jeff, Nancy.
Hang on. All right. Yeah. So as he said, I'm a meteorologist. I came to this area roughly about a year ago, but before I was here, I actually did almost 6 years in the Key West office. So very familiar with the maritime community, and it has been definitely a change coming here. A little bit colder, definitely windier, but overall, it's been great to see this side of the marine, so Chesapeake Bay and whatnot, and a lot of commerce around here rather than just people ride around on party boats. So, but it's been good. All right, so today I'm going to go over with you a few changes that we're making to our marine zones, as well as just places that you can get information on our website. So we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so first of all, here on the left-hand side is the current area that we forecast for, everything outlined in blue. So we do waves, waves in the bay, seas, winds. We also do tides. You can see all the little yellow dots up there. So We do a lot of the title information, but we do have a pretty heavy emphasis on the Chesapeake Bay and the ports. So we were actually talking to the port yesterday about all stuff going on here. And we also definitely talk to the pilots and the Coast Guard a lot. But for all of you, our phones are always open. So definitely feel free to give us a call on if you have any questions, if you're going out, we can give you any information that you need weather-wise. So definitely feel free to call us at any time.
But we're gonna start with a pair of mixed doubles curling, and in delicious Bravo playing away Fortina. The last two unbeaters are facing each other right now. England is including both looking for their first medals ever in this event.
The winds, used to be they could bring boats in, and it wasn't that big, right? I mean, the winds would just go. The ships got bigger, and as they got bigger, they have more sail area. Because of that, they will lose control. They don't have enough tug power. So when the ULCV started coming with the Coast Guard and the pilots, the Port Authority, and really everything is focused in on that little circle right there. You can see where the Baltimore Channel and the Virginia Channel split. That's where the pilots had to go pick the boat up, and then after that they're inbound. And then a lot of times the strongest wind is crosswise to the Thimble Shoal Channel, and then once they get into port, they have to dock these ships. So they had a hurricane plan in place with the Coast Guard, and then they realized that wasn't enough because nor'easters were probably more dangerous for these ships than hurricanes. And the difference with nor'easters, as you guys know, like this, I mean, they spin up pretty quick. Hurricane you see for 5-6 days down there in the Bahamas. You just want it over, right? You're tired of hearing about it. Nor'easters spin up quick. They impact us quick. So they developed a whole new storm plan for the Chesapeake Bay for these bigger ships. And so what ended up evolving out of that was a lot more communication between the Weather Service and all these other partners. And so like today, because we have storm conditions at the Capes, what's happened is the Capes are actually closed. So right now there's no traffic going in and out of Chesapeake Bay. So that went into effect at 6 this morning, and it'll be in effect until 10 o'clock this evening. Because the conditions are just going to be too extreme for the pilots to bring ships in. And so they work with the different cruise lines, shipping lines to try to, adjust times of arrival, basically for ships going not only here, but also up to Baltimore, because the Capes are also the gateway to the Port of Baltimore. So, we work with those. We try to keep those times really tight with them and try to give an idea of when those storm conditions are most likely. It's only for storms. So if we have gale conditions, they have business rules that govern the size of vessels for gale conditions. So if we're forecasting gales, it will restrict the vessel size that comes into the Port of Virginia. But when you get into storm conditions like this, they'll close the Capes. If it gets too extreme, they'll actually close the entire port, which means that no vessels can move inside the port either. But right now we're not, as windy as it is, we don't have a port closure. We just have a Cape closure. So it's a pretty involved process. I mean, Nancy's been pulled in on some of that, learning some of that. It's very interesting conversations. But yeah, we've really kind of dove into a lot of collaboration, with our marine partners, especially how things run at the Chesapeake Bay. And it's all about trying to keep the port safe. We don't want a grounding. We don't want an environmental issue. We also don't want bumper boats, inside the port as big as these ships go. And it's happened, where boats have collided. They've had a few little bumps here and there because of wind or something like that. So we try to minimize that as much as possible. So
is the Coast Guard the controlling agent?
yeah, so the way it works, I mean, it is collab. The bottom line is yes, the captain of the port makes the call, and the Coast Guard puts out the MSIB to mariners, so the notice to mariners about what the port conditions are. And this is called a modified Zulu. A full Zulu is everything shut down. A modified Zulu is they just close the Capes and the lower bay is closed to traffic. The captain doesn't make it by herself. I mean, weather is the trigger, you know what I'm saying? So we'll start the conversation and say, hey, we're concerned about wind potential. We actually look at winds from a probabilistic percent. So we say, okay, what's the chance we're going to see storm conditions? For how long are we going to see storm conditions? We kind of trigger it. And then what happens is that I'll get a call going between the Coast Guard, the Virginia pilots, and the Port Authority. Those are the entities that come together initially. And there'll be a quick conversation. I mean, are we at criteria? They'll look at the vessel traffic. I mean, especially cruise ships or ultra large container vessels. What's due during this time? And then they'll go from there, and the captain of the port will seek recommendations from the pilots and from the port authority. Now, the port authority is not, they can't operate in this wind. The cranes cannot operate, right? So they're shut down. That's a given. And they can't get boats off the docks, right? You're not getting a boat off NIT right now. I mean, if there's a boat there, I haven't looked, she's slamming into the dock, right? So you're not going to move it. And big, if they take it off, it's being pushed away. So they got to make sure they can control that. So they won't move these big boats in this kind of wind.
On the ice right now, it's changed from yesterday.
Yeah, the Coast Guard is the ultimate authority. Yeah, and she won't make it. They've never made it in a vacuum. Yeah, so it's at the end of the day, they make the recommendation to the captain. The captain then sets the port conditions. Yep.
Offense with it being so straight.
Well, they closed the capes. Yeah, the cruise ship made it in. That they got the cruise ship in.
What about the ships that are, again, 6 hours away from here? that have come from
That's where the collaboration comes in. The pilots, the port authority, they'll reach out to those vessels, and they'll either slow their steam. They'll try to make it in early. They may just sit out there and ride it out for a little while. So that's the cruise ships. There's been exceptions, in the past, even in the middle of it, where they tried to get a cruise ship in, because question. It's a tough thing to leave the cruise ship out there with all those people on board, or you let it come in. It depends on what the pilots can handle. I mean, I know a story several years ago. They tried to bring a cruise ship in. It was a real big, it was a problem. I mean, it's just so rough out there. They could not get it on the first pass. The cruise ship ended up having to do several circles, just out there, just kind of doing, not like donuts, trying to beat the waves down so the pilot could get on board. They finally got the pilot on board, and brought the vessel in, and they did have a medical on board that pre-existed, and they couldn't get the helo out there because of the wind. So they were trying to get the ship in because it did have a medical issue on board. And they were working with us about the winds, because there was no way the winds weren't going to die down. And it was like 60 and less than 60 knots at the capes. So they do exceptions by vessel sometimes, depending on the situation. Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to go over our website. So this is just kind of a snapshot of when you go into weather.gov/AKQ. So that's our individualized website. Every single weather service office across the United States has one, and they just have their little call sign at the end. So it's weather.gov/AKQ, or I was KUI or whatever. So every single one has one. So some of the main things here are clickable forecast, clickable map forecast, and I'll show you that in a second. We also just added something new, which is our marine weather story, which is just kind of a snapshot of basically what the conditions are going to be for our entire marine area. And then going down into these little blocks at the bottom, we'll go into a few of these, but you can basically find almost anything you want about the weather and what we do in these blocks. Unfortunately, we do not have an app, so this is going to be your best shot at finding everything you want about our weather forecasts. So this is all our weather forecasts. A lot of the apps generally don't take in what we're forecasting. It might just take in, say, one singular model. So it might show something different than your other weather forecast app, so it can get kind of confusing. So the best place to go is likely right here to get what we're forecasting, because we're taking all those models, those individualized models, and we're doing the probabilities, as Jeff said, and we're making our own forecast. So this is the part where there is humans in there. So there is QCing and whatnot. So just the next one. So this is just a picture, because right now we actually don't have a marine weather story, so I can't show that to you just because we have other marine things that I'll show you. But here's a snapshot, because I know you guys are a little bit more focused on the Chesapeake Bay. So this is what the Chesapeake Bay marine weather story is. If you're like, I just want to get a brief glimpse of what it's going to be like in the bay today, you can click on our little weather story, and you can see conditions for the Middle Bay, Lower Bay, and the James River. And we update these twice a day, because we do our full forecast package twice a day. So you can see what's directly coming out of our coastal waters forecast. So those are coming directly out of our gridded forecast, which is basically just like a point forecast for that area. So you can see, got the weather icon, what's going to happen with the weather. Then you can read exactly what's going to go on with the winds and the seas. So brief, but useful. So, and that's today and tonight. So I think, yeah, so let's go, is it
Alt tab, yeah.
Alt tab? Okay.
Should take you right to the website.
So we're gonna go
There
to our website. This is, right now we have a lot of things going on. These are all the hazards. We call this our Wawa map, or just basically our hazard map. So you can see, you know, we've got plethora of things going on. For marine purposes, you got our heavy freezing spray warnings, storm warning, got some gale warnings out there. We do have some freezing spray advisories, and there are actually some low water advisories out. I think that's going to be more today for the upper bay, just because these northwesterly winds are going to blow a lot of it out. So, I mean, that's definitely impactful to mariners as well to know these low water advisories. So, we see a lot of them, especially in these events. We'll probably see some in like the Currituck Sound and maybe like the Back Bay area, just because that's also being blown out. So if you ever see a low water advisory for your area, just, I guess, know how it's going to impact your vessel going through. Same goes for any type of, on this map, you can also see coastal flooding, which could also impact, you know, if you're going under a short bridge or whatever. So it's definitely important to look at things, not necessarily just on the water. All right.
I don't know if you guys, anybody do ICW runs, like going southbound? Yeah, because the Currituck, when you get wind like this, it'll suck the water out of the Currituck. So
Yeah.
same thing with North River and stuff down there. So that's where we have low water advisories, I think, down there. A lot of the rivers on the north side of the Albemarle and in the upper bay, because the north wind, you know, Back Bay, North River down here, you know, in Virginia Beach. I mean, the tides, we can look them up later, but I mean, it just blows, and it's been northwest for a while. So it really blows those tides out and makes navigation down there a little tricky.
Yeah. Here, roughly because I was doing the tides yesterday, and they're at least going to be 2 feet below mean low water. It's probably mostly muck down there at this point. So I don't know. There was a chance I was going to put out even like a freezing spray advisory for down there, but I realized there's probably not enough water. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna leave the sound there, just because there's probably not enough water to blow anything up. And so freezing muck, I don't think that's on our list. But so that's just right, I know, I guess. Found a new one, add to our little list. Okay, so these 3 little blocks, so of course we've got our radar. This is our local radar. You can look, I'll just start with this one, and then we'll get into the weather story one. So these are just our local radar. You can go to any other local radars here. So you can pan if you want, just look around. I guess I gotta click it. So if you're like, oh, actually I'm going up to DC, you can go, I guess State College now. You can go look at their radar. So just a bunch of different tools you can use for that. Going back to use satellite but we're going to talk about the weather story here. Okay. So I know it's a little bit farther down on our page, but we definitely put a lot of work into these weather stories. So these are usually going to be the main hazards or just something that's happening that week. So 2 of them, I guess only one of them today is a marine one, but this is just going to show, you know, this is what we think is important. So of course, the winds today are the most important thing, as we're not really expecting too much in the way of, you know, snow or whatnot. So then moving on to the marine wind overview. So this is just a glance at what we thought was important for marine today. So that's why we took out our marine weather story. So instead of just showing everything, we're going to show the most important thing. So we're looking at what the highest gusts are going to be today. And kind of hard to see. I don't know if you guys can see it too well. This is actually something you can zoom in onto. It's going to be for the different locations. So you've got anywhere between, you know, Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel all the way to Thin Wolf Shoal, Tangier, et cetera, et cetera. Those are just points that we, across the bay and across our coastal waters, that we have the individualized like point forecast for. So that's going to be your highest wind gust forecast. So that's just one thing that we can put on there. I know sometimes we'll put even the hazards on there. I know we had the other day that storm watches were out, or gale watches, whatnot, stuff like that. So just a quick overview of that. And then of course, if you're interested, we also have our climate tab, but I know some people like looking at that, but anyways. All right, so moving on down to some of our tabs. All right, so what we are going to look at is we're going to do the marine forecast tab. So this is our marine weather page, and it's got a lot of useful information. This will probably be pretty good for your area. So you can click, there's going to be images of, you've got your max wind gusts through 72 hours. And this stuff is always going to be here. So these are automatically updated. So the other ones are the ones that we choose to put on the website. These are the ones that are always going to be here. And then you also have your max wave height over 72 hours. So look at the weather pattern. So there's a lot of information that you can comb through on this one. You've got, our coastal waters forecast, the graphical forecast, coastal forecast. So there's a lot of stuff that you can look at. Looking at, what do I want to look at today? We'll just take a look at our coastal waters forecast. So this is not necessarily a point forecast, but this is just an area. So you can see that this, well, I guess this is technically a point forecast. So this is something that's interesting. You can go and look to the tab that I just clicked and say like, oh, okay, that seems good. Like that's exactly where I want to look. Or you can be like, all right, I know. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Oh, it's because I got it. So let's see. I'm just going to zoom out. So say I wanted to know the forecast for exactly, pretty close to this area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this map. I'm going to click there and be like, okay, that's exactly the area that I want the forecast for. That's where I'm going to be putting around, doing whatever I'm doing on my boat. And you can go and see, first off, the hazardous weather conditions. Sometimes there isn't anything, luckily, but today we do have our storm warning and our heavy freezing spray warning. So that's going to be at the top because those are pretty notable things. And then going down here, you can see just a brief overview, but here is exactly our forecast. So that's coming directly from our forecast, from the forecast that we put a lot of time into, looking at all these different guidance and just making the decisions like, okay, how high do we think the gusts are going to be? How long do we think the gusts are going to last for? So this is coming directly from our forecast. So it's definitely pretty useful. If you want something that's even more detailed, you can actually go and look at the hourly weather graph. So you can see exactly the time frame that you're going to be out there for, which is pretty nice. Just so you're not caught off guard if it's, going over two forecast periods. So you can look exactly, and there's a ton of different things you can put on there, but if you're just looking at marine weather, you can,
Like I'll turn on temperature.
Yeah.
I'll turn on like where it says precipitation potential, especially that gives you the chance of rain.
yeah. So
You can put sky cover on there. It tells you how much sky cover you're going to have. And in the summertime, obviously I'll turn on rain and thunder.
okay.
So I'll turn a couple of these things on. It
Freezing
doesn't,
spray right now.
for some reason on the marine side, I wish it defaulted with these things on, but it just defaults to wind and waves. And so once you turn what you want to see on, just hit resubmit right there. And then when you hit submit, it's going to update that hourly forecast, and you'll have whatever you turned on will be on there. And a lot of times I'll bookmark this onto my phone. That's what I bookmark on my phone for a certain spot. And then I can see my temperature, your wind direction, your wind speed, wind gust. If you scroll down a little bit more, I think you can see your precipitation potential, which is like 0. The blue line is your sky cover. So pretty sunny, only 20-30% clouds. And then you got your wave height right there as well. And you could turn on rain and thunder if you wanted to see the timing of any kind of showers or when we might have thunder in the forecast. So this is what I use mostly. It only shows 2 days at a time, but you can move it and go out 7 days into the future.
Yeah.
Right. But you only see 48 hours, but
Okay.
then you got a couple options up there to move it ahead in time. But a lot of folks ask, what do you use? What do I use? Go out there boating. And I use this hourly weather graph all the time, at least as a first look. And the thing is, you guys know, based on the wind direction, how much wind you can deal with. Sometimes wind direction is, you can deal with a little more wind versus less wind, depending on, the direction, knowing how the fetch is and how rough things might be.
When you bookmark it, it remembers your preference.
It does.
It should.
Yep, sure does.
Mhm. Yeah, and so since I clicked, let's see if we can actually go a little bit farther out, because I know this one didn't have it. Just because in the bay, especially this far out, go out in the coastal waters. Let's see. So this one, basically the same thing, but wanted to do the hourly weather graph and see if it actually had the wave period, just because we do have wave period. Well, I don't know why it's not showing it. Typically it does. Huh. Yeah, so typically, because let's look at, yeah, for some reason. So if you go, no, it's not even showing it on our coastals. That's weird.
That's a point and click, that's why.
Oh, that's probably why.
Yeah, well,
So yeah, if you're interested,
that is a little confusing.
yeah, that is, I don't know if I realized
Yeah,
that.
I tell you,
So,
back up to our main page.
yeah, we're going.
Yeah, so so here's what's confusing about the
Words.
coastal waters forecast. So when you go to the main weather, when you go to the main National Weather Service webpage, weather.gov slide, go back one more.
Go back
Go
one more.
back one more.
Okay.
Yeah, because I get this question sometimes. Scroll back up to the map. So that map is interactive at the top, right? So let's say I click on the let's just click on the lower Chesapeake Bay, right in the middle of the lower Chesapeake Bay. You click once, and what you're getting here is a zone forecast. So when you scroll down, see how it highlights the whole lower bay? So what that's doing is it's pulling in what we call the coastal waters forecast. So it's the forecast that's being issued by our office. It's the one that you will hear on No Weather Radio, coming across your weather band. It's basically it is the official forecast for the lower bay. It does some averaging. It's kind of representative of that whole area. Does that make sense? And notice there, it actually says, I'm going to talk about here in a minute, but see, it says 5 to 6, occasionally 8. So we're going to talk about why it says occasionally 8 there in a minute. And if you click, so that's the zone forecast. And then if you click again, it'll give you the point forecast that becomes a square. And now that forecast is being generated just for, see how the numbers changed a little bit?
Right.
It's just for that point. Yeah, so just, yeah. Same, one's more of a general area forecast, one's an actual point forecast.
An example where you're on that plot, how many individual weather receiving hardware are out there within, say, 10 miles of that?
You're talking about observations, or how many data points are there?
Where they're reading from a weather monitoring device.
Yeah, there's not a lot of observations. We've got York Spit, as far as live data, but you got York Spit, you got Bay Bridge Tunnel, you got Willoughby.
Yep.
We got, and I'll be honest with you. So we do pull in a lot of data from what's called weather flow, if you guys are familiar with that. So that gives us Thimble Shoals and some other folks as well. So we have weather flow data, which we can't put the weather flow data on our website because it's weather flow. They own it, but we see it. We see all that data in real time on our systems. We actually use we have access to their portal. So, and they're showing all the NOAA data too. So that's we have a good relationship with them. So we're using all the same weather observations everybody else is. As far as
free ones are the ones you can see physically are here. Those are all like a lot of the National Data Buoy Center, NDBC. They've got a lot of Seamans out there. I don't know.
NOS and NDBC.
Yeah, so they've definitely got a few out there that are.
Cape Henry is coming back. I know if you've noticed, Cape Henry's been offline for a while. It's because of construction at the pilot tower. So hopefully that comes back in the next week or two. They're done construction on the route. I'm surprised we haven't heard more folks complaining about that, but it also hasn't been boating season because that's an important wind observation there at Cape Henry, and it's been offline. I don't know now for almost 2 months.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a little while now, but it's coming back, I think, in the next week or two.
And they're also just some of these. Let's see. What's a good one? Oh, Chesapeake Bay. Let's see. Got your Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. Let's see what they have. You can go in and see exactly, this is a current observation as of mine 18. Some of these only update every hour or every half an hour. But you can see, wind speed of 38 knots, gusting to 45. You can get all this information, but some of these also have wave height wave direction, wave period. So really good to use, especially if you're like, nah, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's actually a good day to go out there. So you can see over the past few hours, actually, so this one actually updates every
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 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
Yeah, 6 minutes.
So it might just come in a little bit delayed. So you can see from this came up pretty fast. So yeah, so those are just some of the ones that are around here. You can say, okay, so what's the latest marine forecast for all this? There's so much information that it could almost be overwhelming on our website. But these are looking at our coastal waters forecast. So you can see it for this area. And if you're like, oh, what's going on anywhere else? We've got, I can't even remember how many marine zones we have. That's a lot. So there's a lot going on. And what I know we're going to talk about the occasional wave heights in a minute. One thing to note is that once you get down to the lower, so say 2 to 3, I think it's 3 to 4 feet is when it actually starts showing the occasional because it comes more impactful. But once you get down to the lower one, 2 to 3, you're not going to see the occasional. So, but he'll talk about that in a little bit. Just a note. All right, let's go back to our marine weather page to see a few other things. Again, oh, I guess here's a tab actually for observations. So you can look at a bunch of different ones. So you've got your tide data, your sea surface temperatures. I'm not going to click on every single link, but yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that if you're interested, you can go poking around in. And that's just our website and then /marine. So weather.gov/AKQ/marine. But yeah, there's definitely a ton of different links that you can go through and find anything you're interested in. So yeah, that's the NDBC right there. There's other ones. Let's see what this one has just for so you've got your tides and currents here. This is also a good one just to look at. See what the York spit.
I use the text version of ports data.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Refresh.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So you can look at also currents, as I know that can also be impactful when you're out boating. So there's a ton of different things. So I just clicked on the York Spit so you can see the currents for the few days. So once again, tons and tons of information. You can't, but
Yeah, I think yours spits offline.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
red on the webpage.
okay, yeah, that would make sense. Let's see. Go to Thimble
I'm
Shoals.
not sure why that one's offline.
So we'll see. This one's not showing either. I don't know, but there we go.
Yeah, I think Thimble Shoals been off for a while.
Okay, let's keep clicking on
Yeah,
all
hopefully, yeah.
all the ones that are
Yeah,
offline.
they gotta start doing some maintenance, hopefully.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so if you can find one that is online, it should show you all the different currents and whatnot. Just especially, I know in this area, it's very finicky with the currents and the tides. So, so once again, tons of different stuff that you can look at.
There's some hot links up there, like the tide object. I won't click on it, but you got your text observation listing. That's what you just mentioned. Tides takes you to NOS.
Yep.
So we just try to put a lot of things there that folks may look for. I mean, it does take a lot of playing around to kind of see what's there that you want to use. Yep. So it's just we just put a lot of stuff in there, but that folks try to hunt for.
Yeah, but if you do know exactly where you want, you can also search it. So if there's a tide gauge around that area. Yep, so tons of different stuff. Of course, you can see our watch warnings and advisories, or if you're planning a trip, we do have lists to the other other offices around our area, but it's not limited to those. You can continue going farther away. Every single weather service office has a page. Not necessarily exactly set up like ours, because I know you can personalize these a lot, so it might look a little bit different. But you can look at your forecast here. So
The Hansen plots are pretty cool. Click on a
Hansen plot.
Go back to a Hansen plot.
Which one do we want?
You gotta know what buoys they are. I think like which one's at the mouth of the bay.
I don't know. I can't.
But anyway, that's a Hansen plot. So what that is that is actually showing you the top is the wave energy. Basically your period. So you've got a wave out there that's got kind of an east to northeast fetch at about 10 seconds. You got another one that's northwest that's much stronger in the blue, and that's your period. And then underneath that actually represents the wave height. So you've got a northwest wave there at 10 feet, and you've got a small easterly swell at 2. Does that make sense? That's actually what that's showing you there. Yeah, so those are called Hansen plots. We do use these a bit. You know, with that's actually up off of Ocean City, but
Yeah.
we do put these Hansen plots online. I'm trying to think which one's Cape Henry.
Yeah, I can't.
I'd have to pull it up. I can't remember if it's 14. I think it's 14.
14, okay.
Does that sound right? Buoy 14? Yeah, that's a mess. But you get a general sense there with the little bit of a weak maybe swell out there from the low, maybe 2 to 3 feet. But you can see the wind is the blue. That's your wind wave, and that's getting up to about 14 feet out there out of the northwest. So that's what that's showing you. It's just the different wave energy out there. I think you can have as many as 4. This does cap off. I can't remember if it goes up to 4 or 5 wave systems that it'll try to track.
Oh,
there.
yeah. Okay, that's.
Yeah.
Wave period on there.
Yep. Peak wave period.
That's
Yep.
what it is right there.
And
Yeah,
that's the top
that's
one,
the
right?
top one is your wave period. So
Mhm.
the blue, the colors, the top 2 match each other. So that blue northwest at 5 to 6 seconds, that ties into the wave height of 10 feet. Does that make sense? These 2 here, actually, you know, it's you got a 7-foot wave, and that wave is a northwest wind wave at about maybe 4 to 6 seconds. Does that make sense? That's how you read that. The red is a little bit of an easterly swell at about 8 to 10 seconds, and the wave height for that red is only about a foot. You see what I'm saying there? So those top 2, and this is just wind speed and direction by vector. So that's your wind speed and not showing you have a very strong, you know, northwest wind right there, you know, sustained almost to 30 knots. It's weird how it's minus 29, but that's your wind vector. And then these 2 here actually connect together. So, you know, that period goes with that wave height. That's how that works.
Yeah, they're all in line, luckily. So they're all talking about the same thing. So
You get that for offshore buoys too?
Yeah, so
There's-
no, they'll be for offshore. Usually it'll be a place we have buoys.
yeah, I just can't remember their name.
Yeah, if you go to
I feel like that might. I wish they had the name.
go back to
on
the NWPS
Yeah.
page. So
WPS.
yeah, if you're really into this,
Let's see.
yeah,
hold on.
click on that
Oh.
one. I'm trying to see if I can get to it publicly. That's why I'm curious how this works. So this is the near shore wave prediction system. Yeah, zoom in on the map. So when you zoom in on the map, anywhere you see a yellow dot is where you can get that kind of information, the Hansen plot. So like if I click on the dot way out here, click on the one way offshore.
The one. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this one way out there. Click on that dot, see your Hansen plot right there. So if I click on my Hansen plot, that'll pull up, basically it's called a nearshore wave model. That's what we use. It runs off our wind forecast.
Maybe.
Is it working?
I clicked it.
Come on.
Might just be taking its time.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Regardless, if you can't find it here, you can see the
That should
buoy.
be the link
Yeah.
to the Hansen plot right there. Yeah, so it's
Mhm.
working. I don't know what's going on with
Yes,
the
I think,
website.
yeah, 14 is definitely the farther shot. I was like, 14 feet? What's
Yeah,
going
so
on?
that-
I don't
that-
think
that's
that's
way
Cape
out there.
Henry. If it is,
Yeah,
we got a problem.
That's the one 60 east of Virginia Beach.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really not working.
Never get paid over, but I think 14-footer might.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, even if you, for some reason, I don't know why it's not clicking on it, but you can find which buoy is which
And
right
if you
here.
Google, see where it says NWPS nearshore wave prediction system. I think if you Google, even if you just Google Noaa nearshore wave prediction system, it'll get you here.
I will say, you have to do the actual nearshore wave prediction system because we call it NWPS, but there's also something else now that's called
Oh, sure.
NWPS. So just make sure you're talking about the nearshore wave prediction system. Otherwise, you're going to learn about precipitation. So,
Forgot about
so,
that.
yeah, I don't know why they would name something in the same business, the same thing, whatever. But yeah, so lots of different things. You can see, see what yeah. Oh, actually, this isn't.
Oh, that's a different.
Yeah, I don't
that's a
like this
different portal.
Maybe not.
Yeah, don't do that one.
Yeah, so let me see actually the observations. For looking at, this is just something if you're curious about the tides. So say you're wondering about, okay, how low is it going to be if I wanted to go down to this area today? So you can actually just hover over any of these. And a lot of them have a forecast. Some of them, I'm pretty sure the diamonds, I don't know if you can see it too well. Those are the ones we don't have a forecast for, but You'll figure that out pretty quickly. But
We
yeah,
have we have a lot of tide gauges now.
yeah, we have tons and tons of tide gauges that we actually do forecasts for. But these are just observations. So looking at the Currituck Sound, you can already see it going down pretty quickly. Some other observations down here, out of service. Yep, starting to go down. Starting to go up.
Oh, it's rebounding. The wind's pushing.
But yeah, so tons of different ones. I know these down here, these up here are gonna start going down pretty fast. So yeah, they're gonna start going down pretty fast. But otherwise, yeah, we're doing okay on tides. Luckily, we're not in this is a northwesterly wind and we're not in fall.
This is the same, if you're on our main page, you'll see a big button that says coastal flooding, and that'll take you to the same interface, and you can
Mhm.
access all the tide gauges.
Yep.
We got one here at Fort Monroe, Sewell's Point. We got one up there, Lafayette River, there's Bay Bridge Tunnel, Lynn Haven, Little Creek,
Mhm.
Tip to Peak. I mean, we're forecasting for all these locations.
Yep.
And it's not just astrotide, so be careful with that. Pull up Sewell's Point real quick, or just hover over Sewell's Point for fun. Yeah, so, you know, what you see there in the dotted prediction, we're pulling in the astronomical tide. So if you go to NOAA tides and currents, you know, you're looking at trying to figure out when the tide is going to be, you know, later today or tomorrow. That's going to give you a number on the NOAA tides and currents site, but that's an astronomical tide. That's just lunar. We actually do look at there's actually models that run that predict water levels. And so we pull that data in. The forecasters forecast the tides just like they do weather. And we'll make adjustments for wind direction, wind speed, currents and stuff. And so the prediction there you see kind of gets you more into the water level. So if you're worried about tidal flooding, this will show you how high up the tide's going to get. And if we're getting blowout tides, you know, you'll see how low they'll get. But this is the forecasters making the adjustment to the astronomical tide based on other things going on. You know how that goes. As far as
There's nothing on the chart that says this is an adjusted.
that's true. I mean, I'm trying to think.
So I guess it says forecast issued. I guess that's the only.
Yeah, like this is
way.
these are forecast ties. So this interface here, go back to our main page. If you just click on the coastal flooding, the quick way to get to this is to we actually have a coastal flood icon. I think you have to go back more. Anything on anything on this interface is our forecast. I think it's the middle one, the middle one. So
Middle one. What'd you say?
I hate that. I wish there was a better way to see it, but or say that it's forecast. But yeah, anything on that site and anything on NOS's site, National Ocean Service site, or tides and currents is just going to be asked.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And you can, and the problem is sometimes we'll have folks call us up and say, hey, the tides don't look right, or something doesn't look, it's not reading right. And we have to figure out what web page you're looking at, right? Are you looking at NOS? It's like, yeah, NOS is saying 3.5, but it's 5.5. Yeah. So see where it says coastal flood? Yeah. So if you click on that, that'll take you to that. See that big button right there at the bottom? Yeah, you click on that. That takes you right to that same interface. And you can zoom in and out. You know, we're up to forecasting for like 31 tide gauges now, and we're about to add more. We just added Little Creek. We just added the eastern branch of the Elizabeth River. We're about to turn Suffolk on. If you ever go way up Suffolk, all the way to Namsmith, always up to downtown Suffolk, it gets kind of funky, but
yeah, lots in this area.
Yeah, and what's cool if you scroll up and you want to see all the tide forecasts at one time, see where it says water level quick look. This is every single one of them. I mean, so you can scroll all the way through and see all the tide forecasts up and down the Chesapeake Bay. It's a lot. We even do Smithfield. We do the ferry up there at Surrey. With the wind right now, this wind blowing is really going to mess with the tides. Yeah. We're going to have a new one at Rudy Inlet. Right now, if you go up, you see we don't forecast for Rudy. That's because the current gauge is too far back in the creek. But there's a new gauge right at the inlet, and it's being tested. And as soon as we get access to that data, we'll be forecasting for Rudy, the inlet there, which will be nice. But right now, that's why you don't see a forecast for Rudy Inlet, because it's not in a good spot, but the new gauge is in a great spot. So,
and sometimes
look at the wind attention.
Yeah, about to say sometimes you will see some funky things, and if you see like a random point just go into major, just ignore it. We'll probably QC it at some point, but I know I've seen sometimes it'll be crazy with the wind at some sites. I think there was one. I think Tappahannock got frozen at one point, and it just went crazy and then turned off. So just if you see something crazy and there's nothing happening, Don't believe it.
Decide where to put gauge.
So, it's a long story, but to make the long story short, it is, the way it's evolved now is, VDEM, Virginia Division of Emergency Management, has taken over a lot of the USGS gauges. It used to just be National Ocean Service and USGS, and there was just like maybe 9 of them. And a lot of it's been focused on coastal flooding, impact areas. And so, cities were going to USGS, partnering with them to put a gauge in so we could forecast for it. Now what's happening is VDEM, Division of Emergency Management, has a whole division now that deals only with water and gauges, both on tides and also inland. And the cities are partnering now directly with the state, and they'll say, if we put a tide gauge here, could you guys forecast for it? So that's what's been going on. And we say, yes, we can. No, we can't. And so they've been adding a lot of tide gauges. Leeward is the other one that just came online, just up the road here. So it's been kind of a partnership between us, Virginia Division of Emergency Management, and localities. And some of it's marine impacted, but then a lot of it is, what's going to flood. Lynn Haven, Little Creek, Pretty Lake, and those places.
Yeah, you can imagine why they're all down here, because this is a very vulnerable area.
My dock on Comico and it has the gauge there.
Yeah, probably not.
Can you go back to the
Good one.
tile predictions, the ones you just had?
Oh, yeah,
um,
of course.
Coastal flooding.
Let's just
Um,
look at the-
Most of them seem to show the astronomical, gets warped and changed by your predictions.
Mhm.
There are 1 or 2 that don't do that. They're nearly horizontal. Are those because it's at the upper reach of a river? Or?
A lot of that's like the,
Yeah, there's
okay,
one right there.
yeah, so that's a creek. So there might not just be as much tidal influence in that area.
Yeah.
It's way up at the top of there's another one.
Yeah, that's down Virginia Beach area. Kind of down there. That's
So
Creeds.
sand that
It
does
doesn't.
not-
They don't have much tide influence there.
Got all the river gauge that you can access. So I can look at a river gauge from
Yeah.
Buchanan on James
Yeah,
River,
coastal
which is
flood.
200 miles west of here.
Rivers and lakes.
Yeah, see where it says rivers and
Yeah.
lakes. So I know this is
Going.
confusing. You can go to Rivers and Lakes right there. And this is another interactive interface. It's all the same. So that's just like you were saying, this will have river gauges plus tide gauges. So yeah, if you want to see river gauges and tide gauges, click on Rivers and Lakes,
Mhm.
and then you'll see it all. Yeah, we have almost too many interfaces.
Yeah. There's so much information on here, but yeah, you can see this is just the Nottoway River to our west here. Really doesn't have that much in the way, but once you have, say precipitate, like a lot of rain, you'll likely see that start going up, or any type of things that impact it. You'll see that going up. So that's more for saying for flooding for river rather than doing like tides for river. Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm also kayak.
Oh yeah, very important.
Yes, I mean, if you really just want to see all water gauges, just go to Rivers and Lakes, and it'll have everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the River Forecast Center. So we do play a part in this, but it's more we're more like the tide gauge. So the River Forecast Center plays a part in this, but if there's something going on, we do communicate with them and we do talk to them about it. And, since we know more of the local knowledge of, okay, yeah, when this happened, and we did get up to action stage or minor. So, yeah. All right. I think we'll move on so we can. Yeah, no, it is very, very nice. And yeah, and if say you have a family or friend member, whoever, you can actually go to their area. You just kind of have to figure out exactly who forecasts for their area, and you can just make it for them if they're interested. So it's very nice that you can make it's customizable for the entire United States.
I'm going to jump to the briefing page and show them the port.
Yeah. Okay, briefing page.
Yeah. So
Right.
Nancy can show you, we have this briefing page. This is really designed, it has a lot of tabs.
Yeah.
And so this is designed where for emergency management, folks planning, they can kind of click on different things. We have marine tabs in here. We have wind tabs. We have a port tab. And so this is what we've developed for the Port of Virginia. You can bookmark this. It's got the current conditions mapped in here, zooming in on just the port. So there's your current wind observations. I'm at 51. That's the current wind observations across the area right now. Those are interactive. I won't get into all that stuff. If you scroll on down this page, it'll actually have the text observations all the way at the bottom. So you can kind of see what the last observations are in text. Right here, if you scroll up a little bit higher, I use this a lot. that right there, which says port weather, we created this, you can do this. Okay, so this, you may not know about this now. So let's come up. There you go. So you can build this page yourself. If you go to My Ports, you can build, has anybody done this? You can build your own port observational weather page. You can pick what gauges you want. And so I've turned this on I made this for the pilot so they can see, it's basically Cape Henry, the Bay Bridge Channel, Kip to Peak, the winds, the Willoughby to Galveston Station. I think you can scroll over. I can't remember if I've got more on there. It's just a quick check. I made a page. Yeah, that's it. And then I got the training center. And if you scroll down, I think it gets into tides and currents. Of course, a lot of them I think are broken now. Yeah, you can kind of see the Cape Henry waves there. And then here's your actual, basically that's your water levels. And then you have your currents if the currents were reporting. Here's one that's reporting currents. So this was like a quick one-stop shop for just the lower part of the bay. But you can make this yourself. It's called Noaa My Ports. But I made one so that everybody involved in the port. You just go right here. Yeah, if you go back out. So that's right off it's called our port briefing page.
A lot of information.
There's a lot of information here. All those tabs, that's the wind wave forecast. So that's
our daily marine.
That's a daily summary. So that's like bad if it's purple, obviously. The legends down below. So basically the purple is storm, the red is gale conditions, the orange is small craft advisories, and yellow is just breezy, right? Does that kind of make sense? That's the way that's color coded. And then you got the hourly weather graphs right there. So the same hourly forecast. And this is just so that folks can go right there really quickly and just get what they want. And then you got your maximum wave height winds for the day, and then you got your text forecast. So we put everything for the lower bay that they would need on one page. The reason we did that was that everybody having to make port decisions was going to the same spot. We ran into folks going different locations, trying to say, well, I'm looking at the forecast here, and we realized they're not looking at the right spot. So we put that all together. Wind probs is a cool page. And you want to try and explain this? You want me to explain it?
You know.
Okay. So this is the probability of seeing based on the models. Basically, the models come in. It's a probability of seeing different wind speeds. And so if you go to like an interactive map, but go to the
go down to this one.
yeah, scroll down. So this is a probability of sustained versus gust. And so if I scroll down, let's say to the that's red is gales, basically. Oranges is 43 knots, so just below storm, and purple's 48. So that's sustained winds.
Sustained.
So you can see there the red, you have 100% probability of sustained gales. And then down here is your wind gust. So at Chesapeake Light, or let's go to is Bay Bridge Tunnel on there?
Pilot area?
Sewell's Point. They do all do pilot area. Or do Cape Charles. Yeah, do Cape
Charles.
Charles. So this is Cape Charles. So the red is the probability of gales. So that's pretty much a slam dunk. And what's cool is you can see the timing. So, this is what we use with the port folks. So you're seeing more of our decision tools, but this is 6 a.m. Look how you went from very little wind to all of a sudden the probability of 43 and then eventually 48. And from like, I'd say 5 to 8 is when those probabilities just shot up. And that's when the wind kicked in, right? They did a really good job timing it. And then we got to figure out when's the wind coming down. So we're going to be out of storm conditions. This is 6 p.m. That's 1800 tonight. And so probably by about, 1000, we'll be out of storm conditions. And that's why the port restrictions, the Cape restrictions are over at 10. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's 2200. So the gales though extend, see the gales don't fall off really until noon tomorrow. So we're into gales. This red doesn't really come down until 12 o'clock tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So, but this is neat. This is actually looking at the different models and giving us a statistical distribution of what the models are saying wind-wise. So it is a neat tool. Granted, I mean, those are high winds, but this is what we use for decision making for a lot of times versus, trying to pick one model here or one model there. I mean, there's literally there's 60 versions of the European and 30 versions of GFS. So if you hear European and American models, there's 90 of those. So you're not looking at 90 models, right? So you do a statistical analysis or crunch to try to figure out what your distribution is, where your outliers are, what's kind of in the middle of the road. And even once we get into the 48 hours, there's more high resolution models that kick in. So it becomes almost close to probably 200 miles by the time you're all said and done. And what you see on TV is 4 or 5, right? So we're having to do a lot more statistical crunching to stay ahead, of trends and see how things are changing. And it works. It's amazing how well this works. And you know, I go back to, we started this back in 2012, and I think, I can't remember what storm it was, that there was like, Weather Channel called it Saturn or something like that. But anyway, it was a big blow. I thought the table was there. There was a big blow out there, and we were trying to do the best we could looking at individual models, right? Because that's what we were doing then. And the models were ramping the winds up pretty quick. And I want to say something like, we said the winds were going to increase, I think, like around 10 o'clock at night, right? And that's when the port, that's when they did the Cape closure and stuff like that. Or at least, yeah, anyway. Long story short, some of the high-res models started coming in, bringing the winds up about 4 or 5 hours sooner. And we were trying to figure out if that was real or not, because some of the other models weren't. And we couldn't assimilate everything fast enough, right? And so we said, yeah, the winds might come up a little bit faster. And they actually had an inbound ship, I want to say around 7 or 8 p.m. And the restrictions didn't go up until like 10 p.m. And they got a ship in Thimble Shoal Channel, and it did not go well. Luckily, we didn't have a grounding, but they could no longer make headway. They got in the Thimble Shoal Channel, and they were crabbing, and they got to the point where I talked with the pilot, because they were not moving at all, and they were starting to lose ground. You know, so they got some tugs out there, and they got the boat under the control as best as they could. And it could have gone bad. And it just, the winds came in just what, 2-3 hours sooner. And we kind of had a sense that might happen. This actually helps fix that a little bit, because now, like right, you're seeing right there, probabilistically, we can kind of see the front, the beginning and the ending, not just picking model winners and losers. Does that make sense? It's a much smarter approach. And I gotta be honest with you, since we started doing this, we really haven't had those problems with winds. You know, if we see all of a sudden, we're talking 2 days out, and we see statistically the models are bringing it in faster or slower, we'll have that conversation with the port, and they might adjust their condition times. But since we've been doing this, we haven't had as many issues, and it's nice now too, because the port and the pilot folks can actually see this too. So we're all looking at the same thing. They can see what we're looking at, and they can kind of make sense of it. So I don't know how useful it is for, you know, you guys probably aren't out there in gales, you know, like this, but yeah, you might be, but yeah. So we're racing. So yeah, if you go back to the probabilistic page, you know, if you go to our, and if you guys need to find this stuff, you can make sure you email me and Nancy. But right here, it says complete wind gust probabilistic page. If you click on that, that's our actual, this is our interactive probabilistic wind page. And so it's kind of cool. All those little red dots is where you can get a probabilistic forecast. So you click on it, and then what you see there is the sustained wind probability, and this is the wind gust probability. So that's sustained, that's gust. You click on it, you can blow it up, and blow up this one again. Yep. One thing that we did to make it more understandable, we'll blow up. There you go. Scroll down just a touch. One thing we tried to do here, I think it's this one. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what you're seeing here too, that's the probability. We talked about that. That right there is our exact forecast every 3 hours. So what you can compare our forecast here. So that's 35 knots, gust 48. See what I'm saying? And that's the wind direction northwest. And you guys know wind barbs. So this is our forecast underneath here, and that's the model probabilities. So you can kind of compare both of them together, if that makes sense. So yeah, so you can kind of see we're northwest sustained. It's sustained at least 35 knots. It could be 37, but you guys know it's just 35, and it's gusting to almost 50. And you see we finally get down below sustained gales and gust still to gales 39 knots. See, we hold the gale gust for 34 knots right there. We don't get below 34 knot wind gusts until about right when the wind's crashing here. And you kind of see that drives along with our forecast when we're bringing down those gale force gusts below 34 knots. So kind of a neat way that gives you direction and our forecast in addition to the probabilities. So it's a pretty neat tool that I think we developed, and it's been, for communicating high wind, it's been a game changer, for us. Much better way to communicate. And then I won't get into all that, but that's just your probability of seeing different amounts of wind throughout the whole forecast. That's your peak wind, and this is your worst case wind gust. How high could it be? Worst case, we're probably looking at 51 to 53 knots out there. I may derail you, but
yeah, no, you're good. One thing I will say, not to toot our own horn and come to our website a lot. I know we had this problem in Key West a lot, is that some of these apps are just going to take in that, as I said, that one model run and just absorb it. And so sometimes these models can do kind of crazy things and say day 7. So if you're planning a trip and say the GFS, the American model, spins up a hurricane or something, it's going to pull it in. And I remember getting phone calls to be like, oh my gosh, day 7 is going to be bad, hurricane. I'm like, oh my God, like go to weather.gov/ whatever, like to see our forecast. So just if you see something that far out, especially go and see if we're, talking about it in our discussion, if anything, just because I have definitely seen some of those apps. I don't know the specific ones that people were using necessarily, but I have seen it pull in just one run and it shows something absolutely wild. So, and it's not necessarily just day 7 too. It can be day 5, day 3. So, but if we're pretty confident that it's not going to happen, we'll
How far out do you forecast? What's the max?
do actually do 7 days.
7 days.
Mhm. I mean, if we're looking, we don't have in our forecast, but we'll look at farther, and we'll kind of see if there's trends over the course of, a few days and see if we want to incorporate it in that 7 days once it reaches there. So we're looking out farther, or not necessarily forecasting it, because once you go that far out, I think a lot of things change all the time.
Yeah.
It is the atmosphere is very fluid and models aren't perfect. So as we know very well, so we're not going to put in a hurricane on day 12 just because 2 models have it. So yeah.
What's your confidence level in the probability picture? If you're forecasting a wind gust of 35,
Mm-hmm.
what is the confidence level of that?
If we're forecasting it, it's pretty good. Yeah. So if it's in our, if it's at, yep. Uh-huh. Oh.
35 not 30. What's the probability?
Oh, I see what you're
Yeah,
asking.
pull
Oh,
up,
do that.
yeah, pull up. So,
Cape Charles.
yeah, just do Cape Charles. So same thing with our snow probabilities. When we start getting in the world of probabilities, you got to think about it a little bit differently. So let's say for example, let's say for storm force winds right here. See, the probability says 40%, right? So you say, okay, well, there's a 60% chance it won't happen, right? You say, okay, well, that's only a 40% chance of storms. When you talk about probabilities like this, it's a distribution. So what that's telling you is 40% of the models are saying you're going to have storm force winds out there. That's a big chunk.
I'm looking for that confidence.
Right.
Are you saying 40%?
Right. There's 40% of the models are saying you're going to have that much wind. It's a distribution. So it's confidence, but it's really a distribution in that. So when you see gales like that, 100%, all the models are saying gales. I mean, that's what that's telling you across the board. So it's so think about those. Let's throw out there that there's 150 weather models, right? And so this becomes what percent of those models are predicting these conditions, a distribution. So you think about a bell curve. Y'all know about statistics like a bell curve. The middle of the bell curve is where everything's clustering. That's technically the 50th percentile. You're right in the middle. Half the models are saying more, half are saying less. So our forecast is usually right around the 40 to 60 percentile. That's usually about where we go, because you're right in the middle of what we call the distribution. Does that make sense? It's a distribution do the same thing with snow. And so when you see this here and you say, okay, well, it's a 40% probability of storm force. That's 48 knots. That's telling you 40%. So you think about that bell curve, you're just a little bit to the left of that bell curve. 40% of the models are saying you're going to get that much wind. That's a pretty strong signal. I mean, you may not quite get there, but that's a strong signal. At the 50%, if it was like a 50%, that's telling you half the models. You're right. You think I wish I could draw, but you got that bell curve, and that middle of that bell curve is a sweet spot. And so there are some models predicting more, right?
Mhm.
But there are some also predicting less. So you're trying to find that balance.
One thing I will also add is that, we're not just looking at the exact models. We're looking at, what the atmosphere looks like aloft
Right.
too. And so we're adding to that. So that will add to our forecast. So that's not something, so, we can see forecast sounding. So a sounding is basically when you launch a weather balloon, this is just a forecast of that, what it's going to look like, what like a cross section of the atmosphere is going to look like. So if you think the winds from aloft are going to mix down easier, like for today, especially on land, that increased our confidence in it. So, this might say 40%, but our confidence is higher. And we'll probably talk about that in like our forecast discussion, which you can also find on our website. We do have a marine section as well, but so there are things that this doesn't show, which is forecaster confidence. This is model confidence. So if we have it in our forecast, there's something that we're also seeing that either agrees with this or, might even take it up.
It does get goofy. The more extreme the event, the lower the probability becomes more of an issue. Does that make sense? Because you're not going to have every model going out there saying 50 knots of wind. But if all of a sudden you've got a third of them or more, then that gets your attention because it's so extreme. Same thing like hurricane force winds. We start talking about, 74-mile-an-hour winds. So the probability of 74 may only be like 20%, but that's because it's so extreme. That's a problem. But plus, how many models are saying 70, not 74, right? So it's a hard, sharp cutoff. But so and like Nancy said, we start with the meteorology. So we're not just jumping to this. These are just tools that we're using to help us hone things in. But we still got to understand what's going on. Like today, it's not really so much a low pressure offshore. It's just very cold Arctic air, dry air surging in, a lot of mixing going on in the atmosphere. The winds aloft are very strong and they're being pushed down to the ground. So understanding why this isn't like a nor'easter coming up the coast like last time. Last time it was. This time's not so much a nor'easter. This is actually just one nasty cold front, for the most part. Yeah.
Distribution of models and probability chart there. You weight some models more than others?
Now, the only thing that will go in here a little bit is our forecast will adjust it a teeny bit, but I don't know if we're weighting. I have to ask Mike. I don't know if we're really weighting anything.
Yeah, I'm
we're not
not
doing
sure.
we're not doing any weighting. Not with this. There are some other probabilistic, like for snowfall, where there is some weighting that's done. There's a probabilistic snowfall forecast too, which we won't get into that, but we do the same thing for snowfall, and it works pretty well. And I think that does have some weighting in it. This does not have weighting in it that I know of. Yeah.
So is it the same set of models used across all of your data, the 150?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So it's always that. And you change what models are in scope, out of scope?
No, we're not that dynamic with this.
Yeah, that would be pretty tricky for
Yeah,
everything.
we actually call those cluster analyses, there is another tool that we can use that it can say, okay, based on this weather pattern, just run statistics off of the models that have this type of a pattern right now. And that's called a cluster analysis. You can really start to get under the hood here. There's another tool that we use in-house. We can do that. We don't do that a lot, but we can do that. It's called what you're talking about is a cluster analysis, saying, so like, okay, this many models have the low pressure system developing offshore. And let's say I think that's right. So I want to do statistics just on the models that say that's going to be there, not the ones that don't, right? So you can do that, but we don't do that very often.
Something I will say that I don't know if this is necessarily true for everyone, but sometimes when people see a forecast, like the public, someone posts a forecast of 2 feet of snow in Hampton, Virginia, like people will lock into it, be like, yes, I want to look at that model continually. So having the same forecasts, like same models, allows us as forecasters to not also lock into what we think is going to happen. So it shows the overall broad scheme of things rather than changing it to fit what we think, necessarily. So we want to see objectively, not subjectively. So
Model, not all third-party models as well as in-house models.
Yeah, it was European, the Canadian, the GFS are the big ones.
there's a lot that are the public can see
The
on
high range, the
yeah.
high res, the HREF,
tropical
ensembles.
tidbits.
Yeah, so there's a
everywhere.
lot. There are a lot of university models that also get them that are out there too. We don't pull those in so much, but they do use them for tropical, for hurricane track forecasting. Like you hear about the Florida State Super Ensemble, and there's a few others out there that try to predict like hurricane paths. But day-to-day forecasting, it's European, GFS, the Canadian, the North American model, and what we call our high-res ensemble forecast suite.
Models change. You guys
Like-
get out there and ask some folks that might have outlier stuff, or is it black swans embedded in there, that kind of.
As always, seems like a black swan down there somewhere.
You see some crazy things. You're like,
Yeah.
how did it get that? Like,
And you gotta be
that's not
careful with
physically
that. So
possible.
it's like, like we had this last event, the snow event, where, we had to be careful with the distribution and the amounts. Like if you just averaged out the models, there was a few outliers forecasting like 24 to 30 inches of snow in Richmond. And that's going to skew everything. So you do have to kind of start throwing out some of those. And you look at the actual weather pattern itself, that can't happen, right? I mean, it's just, there's no way that you're going to get that much snow. So you do have to sometimes start throwing out some of the ones that just don't make sense. Yeah.
So it's all the models in your guys' here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we like to think.
You want to jump to some of the marine changes in the PowerPoint
Yep,
real quick?
yep.
And
So now we're gonna.
I don't want to hold these guys too late.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna. Okay,
Get to
we
the-
already went over all this. Our page.
They know about
You guys
that
know
one.
all this stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
so we are, I know I talked briefly about our current marine zone. So this is just a look. You can see all of ones are coastals. But then once you go into the gray area, that becomes not us right now. It's called, the Ocean Prediction Center actually does their own forecast for that. We don't, I really haven't collaborated with them too much, so they can be a little bit different for, up to 60 nautical miles offshore.
How many of you guys go offshore beyond
Yeah.
20 miles? Most,
Okay.
some of you guys? Okay.
Yeah. So right now, yep, all of our forecasts only go out to 20 nautical miles. Well, hours. The weather service has stuff farther off. However,
So what can happen? How many of you guys times have you seen like a hurricane warning, like almost
Sure.
up to 20 miles, but then within
Right.
20 miles, like small craft advisory?
I mean,
So
if
the
you
reason for that is
look at this giant
yeah, see, it goes 100
area.
miles offshore. So right now, the old way we've been doing it is OPC. They
Mhm.
forecast out to 100 miles. So if they think they're going to have hurricane conditions out there 80 to 100 miles, they put a hurricane warning up. But it jumps all
Looks
because
weird.
that zone is so big, it ends up being issued all the way up to basically almost to Chest Light buoy, right? 20 miles out, you know. But we may not be really expecting hurricane conditions there. It's only way offshore because the
Mhm.
zone's been so big.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's this.
Oh yeah, no.
Stuff's coming.
So what we are now expanding to, ta-da, we are going to go all the way out to 60 nautical miles in March.
The local weather office.
Pretty sure. I
March
think
3rd.
March 3rd. So
think-
we are going to go all the way out to 60 nautical miles. So that will now be our forecast. Currently, what we've been doing is we do still issue special marine warnings for that area, but we did not do the forecast. Now we will also be doing the forecast for that area. So now you can look at it and probably won't see anything as crazy as, yeah, the hurricane warnings up to a small craft advisory or something like that. So it'll definitely be very good to have that.
And like right now, if you click, I won't go back to the
Yeah, I
web
don't
page,
think
but
I-
if you click on the web page and you click offshore, you just get a worded forecast. You don't get all that nice high res, point and
Mhm.
click. You just get a worded forecast that just
Mhm.
basically says the offshore waters from 20 to 100 nautical miles out. That's what the Ocean Prediction Center provides. Once we flip over in March, I don't know if it's going to be immediate, but when you go to our map and you click, in this area here, it'll be a point and click forecast out here, just like you get in the bay. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
You should have all that high resolution and everything there. So that will improve it. And it's going to allow us to push those headlines further offshore. So you may have a hurricane warning out here, or let's say a storm warning out here, and maybe we have gales here, but maybe only small craft advisories, here. So the way it works right now, if they're expecting storm conditions or hurricane conditions, out anywhere here, it gets slammed all the way up. I mean, almost the CB buoy is sitting
Yeah.
almost like right here. So it almost brings that headline almost to the CB buoy, even though, we're not expecting those kind of winds that close. So
Very confusing for people looking at maps.
it does, and there's some implications with wind farms and other things offshore too, with headlines. So it's going to allow us to get more targeted in what are the conditions going to be in that dark blue area,
Mhm.
and not being so just broad brush with it, if that makes sense. Yeah, this is a good change. This has been in the works for a long time. I do not think right now we're going to do small craft advisories out to 20 nautical miles. We're not going to do small craft advisories, I think, beyond 20. They don't do it now, right? So we're not going to add it. We will do gale warnings, storm warnings, and hurricane warnings in that dark blue area. But we're going to keep small craft advisories probably within 20 nautical miles, and in the bay.
Yeah, because you think about it right now, our small craft advisories are in the coastal waters are for 5 feet. Farther you go offshore, the more frequent that happens.
5 feet all winter.
So yeah, so exactly, it's 5 foot all. It's not going to be useful. So since the gale and above is all based on winds, that's probably the main reason why we're going to focus on that. It's just going to be more of a wind. I mean, you're going to get your seas forecast, but it's just not going to be 5 feet. It's not going to be a small craft advisory all winter. So makes everyone's lives a little easier. So we have one more marine expansion zone that we are also doing. So hopefully you guys can see this well. It shows up a little bit. But so right now we've got the lower James zone currently, but now we are also going to be including this hatched area here and here. So I guess the Elizabeth River area. So we're all going to be also forecasting for that. So you will be able to see a little bit more detail with that forecast. So those are the big changes that we are making this year for our forecast zones.
Yeah, one of the things that's going to make, I mean, obviously you don't get a lot of waves there. if we have a small craft advisory, a gale out for the James River, it's gonna, also go up the Elizabeth, right? So the area in yellow now is all gonna be considered marine. Where it's gonna make a bit of a difference is that, like, let's say a thunderstorm's coming out of Suffolk, right? And it's gonna roll across Waterside and maybe hit over there towards Lambert's Point. In the past, that wasn't treated like marine. So they wouldn't get special marine warnings, right? Because it was all land. And of course, that's where the port is. So we really weren't issuing marine warnings for the port, which, kind of took a step back, and we said, well, why aren't we? And so really it's just to allow us to issue those marine warnings, so we can issue a special marine warning talking about storm hitting, the Western Branch, Lafayette River, Lambert's Point. Because remember, a marine warning kicks in at 34 knots, but a land-based warning is 60 miles an hour. There's a huge difference. So if we think a storm's going to roll through there, and let's say produce 34 knots or 40-mile-an-hour wind, we can issue a marine warning, let boater, at least let folks know that this storm's coming and it's going to hit the Elizabeth River. Where this will also take effect in March. So
Yeah, so big changes coming for this area.
It's really good because you can sit there at the Norfolk, Norfolk Southern cold here, and you can see the damn thing coming.
yeah,
No alert.
Why is
Yeah,
the
and
radar
that's
not
why.
going off?
that's because we don't treat it as water right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's all good things, especially since I know probably this area has a lot of smaller boats going through it, rather than, we're not focusing on just, the ultra large container vessels. You guys are also very important to us. So, all right. So I guess
I
I'll
had
hand it
this-
over
I
to
had this
you.
real
So
Yeah, so
let's see what we can get through.
So this was, we'll get this real quick. So another thing that we've done in the last, when did we start doing this?
A few years ago.
Yeah, about maybe a year ago. We've expanded it now in Chesapeake Bay, is just trying to figure out wave height, right? So when we're forecasting wave height, again, this is a distribution of waves. So let's just say that this is the observed wave height that you're seeing out there. And this is actually pretty big numbers, but let's say that most of the waves are around 25 to 35 feet. And the significant wave height, if you're counting for 2/3 of all the waves, the wave height here is, let's say, 51 feet. We're just going 51 right here. And then your highest of your average 10th is up here around 66. And then your absolute max is 90. Well, the wave forecast that when you hear us saying waves out there 5 to 6 feet, it's right here. We're forecasting significant wave height, right? We're forecasting for the highest, basically the highest up to the 2/3 of the wave distribution. So if you're out there 5 to 6 feet and somebody says, yeah, I experienced an 8-foot, 9-foot wave. Yeah, that makes sense, because statistically, if we're forecasting here, you're going to have some higher waves. Does that make sense? It's going to happen. So, what we've tried to do, especially with wreck boaters and more folks that just don't understand wave distribution, because we've actually had folks get out there in trouble. Sometimes it's been with the rental stuff, but they get out there and they say, well, y'all were forecasting 3 to 4 and I had a 6-foot wave or something broadsided me or whatever. It's like, well, that makes total sense. And so now what we're doing is we're adding to the forecast. We give you our significant wave height, but then we'll say occasional, and the occasional wave height is sitting right out in here. So we'll say, okay, you know what? We're expecting 5 to 7 foot waves, occasionally 9, maybe 10, right? And that's because 9 to 10 is here. And let's say 6 to 7 is here. Does that make sense in your wave distribution? So it's trying to give folks an idea of what to expect out there in the marine. So these are some actual events that we've actually tried before we really started doing this. We tried to get some validation. And so this is waves observations out there at Cape Henry, only for about 30 minutes of time. So it's a lot of wave reports for about 30 minutes. And you see our forecast there. It was basically seas 10 to 12 feet, occasionally 15. And if I look at the distribution, this here on the right is what actually occurred. So this is the actual wave observations. And the significant wave height was right around 12 feet. And the highest tent was right around 15 feet. So this is what was actually observed. And that's what we were predicting. So it worked out pretty well. So we're trying to tell folks, hey, yeah, you're going to go out there in 10 to 12, but you're going to occasionally have 15. Now, could there be a one even taller than that? Sure. We're not saying the absolute max weight, right? We're saying occasionally. And it has to do with the frequency of return. How often are you going to see that wave height? And then notice here in the ocean, we also give you basically the wave direction, southeast 12 feet at 17 seconds. So that's kind of your period and your fetch and your period. So this was actually at Duck Buoy, the same storm. So you kind of see what's going on there with the distribution, the forecast there on the left. So if we're forecasting 12 to 14, occasionally 18, and it worked out pretty good. Significant wave height was probably closer to 15, and your 10th percentile was probably up there around 18. So not too bad. Thimble Shoals is interesting. So this is a pretty good blow like we're having right now. Not quite as strong as what we're having right now. 30, 35 knots, gust of 45, right? This is a Thimble Shoal forecast. What you'll notice, well, that's not the right forecast, sorry, but this is your distribution. So at Thimble Shoals, your wave distribution, notice how it's smaller at Thimble Shoals, and your significant wave height here is 5 feet, but your H10, your 10 percentile is up here around 7. See how it falls off really quick? If you go back to the ocean distribution, let me back up. But you look at the ocean distribution, see how it's like more spread out. Does that make sense? A little more spread out. Notice how the Thimble Shoals is tight. So I'll throw it out to you guys. I think I'm muted. Yeah. So I'll throw it out to you guys. Why do you think the distribution is tighter for Thimble Shoal? It's partially because it's shallow, and because it's shallow, it's what else is happening? Fetch could be part of it. I got another theory. Yeah, I think it's more breaking waves too. I think the waves they can only get so tall because of fetch, because it is a shorter period, and I think they break. I think we get a lot more. I think we get a lot more breaking waves. We've noticed this a lot where once you get to the Thimble Shoal buoy, the distribution is not as spread out. I think it's because a lot of it's breaking. You just get these shorter wind-driven waves. They can only get so tall, and then they fall over. I mean, you're talking about 4 to 5 foot waves, and then occasionally you get 7. They're probably breaking. By the time you get 7 to 9 feet, they're probably mostly just breaking into white water. So you don't get those big. You can't build up 20-foot waves, in the Chesapeake Bay. You just can't do it. Well, you got currents as well. That's right. So the wave distribution there is a little bit different. This was just a coastal storm. I wanted to show this just because it shows the distribution here off of Duck. So this was the forecast. This is the actual plotted wave height. So the blue line is would be what we'd be predicting. So that's the highest. That's the highest third. Take into account 2/3 of the waves. The green line is the wave height. That's our occasional wave height, and the red is the peak wave height that the buoy measured. So these are actually measurements. So when the storm came up, and we were forecasting gusts of 40 and that seas 10 to 12, occasionally 15. That worked out pretty good. We're around 10 feet. Occasionally, we're probably just shy of 15. The max wave height here was getting probably closer to 15. But you see your wave distribution there. Obviously, the waves were coming down. And that's actually some graphics that we put online to kind of show in our briefings what we think the winds are going to be. So that was Duck. That's the distribution. Here, the same thing as at Cape Henry, same storm. So the bottom right-hand corner, I just think it's cool because it shows you the wave distribution. So peaked out, significant wave height was about maybe 11 to 12 feet. The green line is your occasional wave height. So that's about 14 feet. But look at your max. It actually did measure almost a 20-foot wave out there. People argue that a little bit, but somewhere probably around 18 feet, 20 feet, it was your absolute max wave heights. And there wasn't just one. It measured a few max waves at that high. You do see the red line's a little more noisy because it's trying to measure the absolute max out there. And we're not trying to forecast that, right? We're focused on the blue line and the green line. What's the significant wave height, and what are you occasionally probably going to experience out there? I think the significant wave height's like a wave, what do we say, every 5 to 10 minutes? Every 5 to 10 minutes is your significant, but then your occasional is like every 20. If you're out there, every 20 minutes or so ish, you might get that green line, that occasional wave height. So it's not going to be continuous, but you're going to experience it. It's just the nature of the distribution of waves. Same thing here at Cape Henry, same storm system. You kind of see the distribution there. Notice how spread out that is at the top. So that's showing you how spread out the wave readings were, but then look at the bottom. Like at the bottom kind of shows you better difference between the blue and then the green, and then your max wave heights there. So some pretty good stuff. Thimble Shoals, similar thing. I kind of see it peaked out there at around 6 feet, occasionally getting up to 8. It was trying to measure max waves of 10 to 11 out there at Thimble Shoal Channel. That's what it was reporting. But yeah, that gives you an idea of the wave distribution there. I'm going to skip through that. And we already talked about a lot of our wind probs. So a lot of these wind probabilities, you get into our predictions here as far as how we're predicting the wind. It does work really well. I already showed you guys for this event, but that's another event. And this is off weather flow. So this is actually the observations that we saw out there from the storm, where it's the state got about 30, gusts to 40, 45, eventually 50. And this was the actual probability timing. So the box here lines up with those orange lines. So it's really pretty cool how it all kind of, whoops, comes together. I'm going to bust my butt before it's over. How it all comes together. I know, right? You get that class next week. Have a little tourniquet going with a splint or something for it, so it's all done. Hopefully I don't bleed out or something like that. But let's see here. And I think I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop there. So when you'll see the occasional wave heights on the website. You may have already noticed it. Got too much glare here. When you go back to our main webpage and you click on the forecast, that's when it's going to show up. And it'll also be on the weather radio. So like if I go in here and I click offshore and I get that coastal marine forecast there for Cape Charles, Cape Charles down to the Virginia border. See, it says right there, seas 7 to 9 feet, occasionally 13. And then there's your wave detail. So remember we talked about those Hansen plots a minute ago? The Hansen plot data does actually show up in the big coastal marine forecast here. When you click on it and you get this zone forecast, notice right here, okay, it says occasionally 13 feet. Wave detail is that Hansen plot. So it's telling you got a northwest wave at 8 feet with a period of 6 seconds. So that's a wind wave at 8, but you've also got an easterly 3-foot wave at 10 seconds. So you've got a wind wave here at 6 seconds, but you do have an easterly 3-foot at 10 seconds. Does that make sense? And that's the same data that's coming off the Hansen plot that I showed you guys earlier that we talked about. That's the exact same thing, but now in words. Yeah, and then you see it again for tonight. You see it there for Sunday. It's called wave detail, and we provide the wave detail in the forecast. So, but it does get confusing because if I come out here and let's say I just click on the point, this is where it gets confusing. If you'll notice in the forecast, you're going to lose that wave detail. So on the point and click forecast, when you get to see that little square, when you get to the high res forecast, unfortunately, the way it works right now is you lose that data. I know we don't control this. It's not optimum, so if you're looking at just trying to get an individual point, you still get a wave forecast, but now that's significant wave height only. And you've lost that wave detail there. But if you just key on the coastal waters forecast, that first click, you'll have all the detail. And if I come into the Chesapeake Bay, we just added it for the Chesapeake Bay as well. We only do the occasional wave height, but we just turned this on. We probably just turned that on this past summer. We were doing it in the ocean for a while because we felt good about it. We needed to do more validation to see if the bay made sense. Does that make sense to do it? And we had enough, we did some studies and we felt good enough where, we could turn it on. So once the wave height hits 4 feet in the Chesapeake Bay, 3 to 4 feet, the occasional will kick in. So it's saying 5 to 6 feet, occasionally 8 out here in the Chesapeake Bay. And you see you don't really have wave detail because we don't get swell. So if it's a northwest wind in the Chesapeake Bay, guess which way the waves are going, right? We don't have swell really. You do down towards the mouth of the bay, but not so much right there up in here. So we do not do the wave detail in the bay, but in the ocean we do. I'm pretty sure that's now standard across the entire weather service. That let me go down and click North Carolina. I think everybody's doing wave detail now. Yeah, see right there? Yeah, so even off the Morehead, that's the Morehead City Weather Office doing that forecast. And notice how they have the wave detail there as well. Seas 8 to 11 feet. They're saying 6 to 9 feet near shore, and then you got your wave directions there, north at 11, east at 7. So again, that's coming off those Hansen plots. So what time we got? I don't want to go too long because I want to give you guys a chance to. We've asked, y'all have had a lot of questions. Anything we haven't really talked about that's really kind of in your crawl or something you guys a burning question?
Yeah, the one you just showed, the wave detail shows waves from 2 different directions. What's causing the east waves? Some distant storm?
Yeah, something low pressure or something out there causing an easterly swell. And you'll see this a lot. You're seeing it right now, but especially in the summertime, you'll see it quite a bit if there's some type of tropical system way offshore. And it may be that's all you have. It may be waves out there, maybe 2 to 3 feet, and it's an easterly swell at 2 feet at a period of like 12 seconds. And that's all you really have because there's no wind. Maybe the wind is, southwest at 10, 12 knots, but you've got 3, 4 foot waves out there, but it's from an easterly swell. And so that will show up in there. It'll say, waves 3 to 4 feet, and wave detail will say east, 3 foot, 12 seconds, and then maybe southwest 1 foot, at 8 seconds.
Is that why occasionally when you're offshore, you're hundreds of miles offshore, you get one wave that is suddenly giant, it's way bigger than anything else? Like,
Yes. Yeah, it's where your wave energy is lining up. You know what I'm saying? So you have a certain wave energy, then you have another wave energy. And if those two can kind of line up at the right time or the right period, you'll just all of a sudden it'll build up and you'll get just one just totally out of random. I mean, if you've been out there long enough, we've all experienced something like that. I mean, I've even experienced that even like on the Pamlico Sound or like even in enclosed waters, bigger bodies out on the bay, where all of a sudden it just seems like you got one wave that just kind of came out of nowhere. You're kind of like, what the heck was that? And you got kind of broadsided with it. That's
a big ship, same time with the
Yeah.
ordinary wave.
Oh, that's horrible. Yeah. That was bad out, especially going out. I used to be in North Carolina and going out Bogue Inlet or Beaufort Inlet, and you had the current with waves, and you get those big charter boats going out. And you're trying to fish. I mean, there was once where we almost capsized. Yeah, you didn't think it was going to be that bad, and all of a sudden it was just like the way it hit. I mean, you saw it build up right before it got to us, and the whole boat. I mean, me and my friend, we just grabbed onto something, but we were in center console. I mean, she heaved all. I mean, she went almost. It was close. Crap fell out of the boat. Let's put it that way. I mean, we had to go pick up some stuff that fell out of the boat. Luckily we didn't go over, but that was pretty scary. I mean, we saw it at the last second and just kind of grabbed something. Yeah, but I know what you're talking about, the way stuff lines up. Oh, did you? Oh, yeah. If you next me show, so I watch these. So it's interesting. Maybe hit play again or go scroll to your slide. We just had it last night with the snow, and I actually saw some folks from TV up in Richmond talking about how even with the snow that they got last night, how bad the AI actually did. They said some of the AI stuff was worse than the so.
It was a different presentation that we had, but yeah, it was, I can send you something because I think I have your email because I think you asked us to talk about it. So I've got a few slides for you, but it was basically almost like, to me, I don't know if you agree with this. It was almost like more of like an ensemble, more not as detailed. So like it's something that's not going to be. Do you have your email?
No, I can't get my work email.
It is, but
Dick Room has already developed an AI.
Right.
And so that's gonna so the data you're gonna get is going to have AI.
Right. So there actually already are some, like the European model has one,
Has
the
AI.
GFS has one. So we do look at those. I know we looked at them a lot for the low pressure systems this fall, the few that they had. And it's one of our forecasters did like this, takeaway from what we learned with the AI models, but it was more of like it's more consistent with like the location of the low, just because some of like the deterministic, so like the single model runs could be vastly different, but it was that's why to me it almost mimicked like an ensemble, because it was more like consistently where it was. However, it was definitely less detailed. So you want to know with those systems like how much rain you're going to get, but it's not going to be quite as detailed. So it doesn't do well with say rainfall or the smaller details like that.
We're talking about aircraft.
Yes. So
Right.
we take a look at that. So if we see, I know one of the things that he said is like, okay, so, if we see this low consistently in the same spot, I'm taking note of that for the AI models. So there is some positives, but of course every model is going to have your negative, and we're kind of still navigating to see what the pros and cons are. But those are just some of the few takeaways, that it's just kind of more broad brushed in terms of like the precipitation and stuff like that. But it does have, the consistency of the low, which is very important to the impacts. So we can see the impacts from say other models if the low is in this spot, that this one is consistent. So we can kind of add all that stuff together to make it. So it's kind of like we use the different models. So it's coming along. I don't know how it's going to impact us fully.
Yeah, it's gonna be tricky. I mean,
Yeah.
well, I mean, you're still forecasting something in the future that has not happened, whether you're using AI or not.
Mhm.
I mean, you're trying to just forecast a nor'easter 2 days from now. that system's not going to develop until 18 hours before it actually impacts you, no matter what.
Mhm.
So, even AI, like she was saying, you run AI and you'll still get 20 different solutions. It's not like you're running AI and everybody, all of a sudden, because we're running AI, it's giving you one exact forecast. If I run AI, like she said, ensembles 20 times, I'm still going to get 20 different solutions. So it's going to be interesting when it gets there as far as the accuracy, especially further out in time. I think hopefully start to narrow things down. It can probably it can do a lot more. We talked about that cluster analysis a little while ago. It's going to be able to do that a lot more. A human really can't, has a hard time doing that. So it's going to be able to do a lot of quicker, okay, these are the ensembles I have. This is the pattern. This is the most likely solution. So let me drop out these ensembles that I don't think are going to happen and just focus on the ones that I do. So you might get more narrowing of things, what I'm saying, and maybe more tighter clustering. It's going to be, I think it's still going to be a while before it really, say, oh yeah, we're just nailing this thing and hitting it out of the park. Because you're still like in the marine side. I think tropical, that's because those are slower.
Yeah,
Those are slower, more grinding systems. We're
Yeah.
talking about snowfall, quick hitting
Yeah,
systems
those are-
like the nor'easters that come up the coast. It's to us as forecasters, it's frustrating because a lot of times we are predicting something and everybody's making decisions off of something. And that system, by the time it forms off of Hatteras or it forms off of Charleston and it impacts us, is usually only 12 to 18 hours. And at that point, all decisions have to be, everybody's doing what they're going to do, ship avoidance, doing this stuff. So you can't wait till, oh, guess what? It's blowing like hell. Come on in, And so I don't know, we'll eventually get there, what I'm saying? But you're always predicting, the future I call it fairy tale land. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, the Weather Service, I won't get into all of it. We are completely redoing how we do forecasting to try to adjust for that, because we know eventually we're going to be doing less forecasting, more, we call it weather support, weather intelligence, what's right, what's wrong, where the model's struggling, where might the forecast be more questionable in other parts, so our jobs are going to evolve dramatically in the next, 5 to 10 years. How far and how fast, I think, is still the big question mark. How fast can you take the forecaster out of forecasting and just put out a model forecast and say, good luck, this is the forecast, and we don't have any control of it. And that's a big debate right now, to be perfectly honest. Some folks want to move fast, and other folks are like, whoa, hold on. Because, what's going to happen if we're getting like a blow like this, and let's say the models are forecasting peak gusts of 40 to 45 knots, and we think it's going to be 55, but we can't touch the forecast because the forecast is locked down by AI. There's that debate going on. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to, and it's going to depend, are we ready for that? To just walk away from forecasting. With days 4, I'll tell you right now, with the days 4 through 7 part of the forecast starting March, we won't be editing that anymore. That's going to be completely computer generated.
Unless it's a very impactful event. We do have.
It's got to be a
if-
high
if-
end.
if
Yeah.
We're seeing something like we're seeing today, and we're like, you know what, this is garbage. We have to do something about
Right.
this. We will have our input in there. So it's going to be the more impactful. It's not going to be the 75 versus 79. So
Yeah,
it's still have a little bit of input.
so there's a lot of debate. But yeah, the extended part of the forecast we're backing out of. Because you can only get so accurate anyway. There is a limited amount of accuracy you can have in days 5, 6, and 7. We're still maintaining the first 3 days of the forecast, really tight. We're completely involved in that interactive. That's where all the gale watches and storm watches and flood watches, hurricane warnings and watches, all that's issued in the first 3 days of the forecast. So we're still focusing on that, but honestly, we are backing off on the extended forecast and we're not getting into the minutia of weather, especially further out in time.
I can give you a general compliment. The past couple of weekends when we've had bad storms, I've looked at the YouTube version of your 9 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
And they are absolutely true.
Well, thank you for that.
Everybody needs to know that these guys do a 9 o'clock briefing.
It's 11 o'clock. Yeah.
There's 11
The briefing's issued at 9, and then we do a lot. YouTube at 11. Yep. If you guys ever want to see our briefing, so when we talk about the briefing tab right here, so if you click on the briefing tab, so just so you guys know, and it's on the port page too. See where it says full weather briefing right here, and it says latest YouTube briefing. You can click on this. We actually issue this every single day. So what we do is it's going to be a PDF. the forecasters put together a quick little briefing of it. It's basically a quick forecast of what is it you need to know. What is it you need to be aware of over the next, I'd say let's say 3 to 4 days. And so, this is that briefing. It's taking forever to load. Yeah, but you can kind of see here. Yeah, it's just because it's Adobe being Adobe. It's a PDF that's opening, but this is the same thing that we do in the YouTube briefing. And we actually put this online, in the morning you see right there, that's our update cadence. So this thing is updated online every day by around 9 a.m., 9:30, and at 3:30 in the afternoon. So we actually put this out twice a day. And then Monday and Thursdays, we do a live briefing. If there's weather like this, we do it every single day. We do a YouTube recording. And what's cool about this, I mean, you can read it. These are kind of the headlines. Excuse me. Joke. If you scroll on down, you got your land-based stuff here. The wind for today. I lost it there for a second. Let me get some coffee. If you keep on going down, this is all land stuff. You can kind of tell. Extreme cold advisory. Yeah, it's going to be cold. And then this is more land stuff. And then as you get after this Outlook page, you get into a marine section. And the last half of this briefing is always marine. So there's your storms and gale warnings. There's your marine threat potential for the next 5 days that we talked about earlier. Here's the marine kind of peak wind gust for the next, every 6 hours across the marine. And the Coast Guard uses this. We actually put a wind probability in there for the Capes because of the Cape closure. We've had that in there. Sustained wind versus wind gust every 6 hours in the forecast. And then basically what your wave height is. And this is going to be your maximum wave height over the next couple of days, your significant wave height on the left for today, really, and then your occasional wave height on the right. So we have a land section and a marine section, and this is always there. We even keep it up on our top news. If you say, I can't remember how to get to it, just go to the Wakefield Weather Service page and see right there where it says daily briefing right there. And then we have a link to the YouTube channel. So that's something we really added doing. It's part of our, and to do that, we've had to back out. I mean, we had to free time up, right? And so we don't do as much extended forecasting. We've had to free that time up. And now we have time to do this a little bit. So, try to find that balance. But that's what I call weather intelligence. So it's like, okay, you got this whole forecast, but if I'm a user, like an emergency manager, or even for the Coast Guard, high-end user, I can just go to that every morning and it's updated. What do I need to know? What is important for me today? And yeah, kind of, that's exactly what it is, really. And it's us picking and choosing from parts of our forecast, what it is we feel like we need to communicate. But a lot of those slides are permanent. Those marine slides, they're always there. Even if there's not much wind going on, the wind forecast is always in the briefing. We always add the marine.
Sometimes if there really isn't much going on and there's a lot going on land, we might cut back on the marine side. If it's regular day on the water, we might cut back a little bit if there's a lot going on land, but typically they're
The fourth is if we have tornadoes, summertime, are you gonna come on and do something here?
Well, so the briefing will always be there. If there's like a risk of severe weather, we're slight risk for the day. It'll be in the 9 a.m. briefing. If it's going to be a slight and higher risk, we'll do a live briefing for that and kind of walk folks through the different models, what time storms might develop, things like that. When we're actually into issuing warnings and live weather, no, we're not going on YouTube. We don't have those resources. Like, if you're actually out there and you want to see somebody tracking storms like Ryan Hall, y'all, or those, we're not doing that kind of stuff. But we will do the briefings, kind of the heads up type thing, but we're not there yet, doing live, keeping folks up with what's happening right now with the storms, where they going. We'll put it on social media and stuff.
It's probably your best bet for
But,
water
yeah.
updates, but I'm not saying we're gonna do it for every storm either, just because, the radar is priority at that time, so issuing warnings is gonna be your priority. So,
And it takes, if we have a decent severe weather event, we're going to have anywhere between 4 and 6 forecasters in the office just to do operations, for warnings and phone calls and, keeping up with everything we've got to keep up with in severe weather, because it gets fast paced and we got to get the warnings out. That's what's setting off cell phones, and that's what TV stations are reacting to. So that's going to be a priority. But if we do have a risk of severe weather, we will do that live briefing at basically recording at 11. So our battle rhythm is We issue the briefing out at 9:30. We push it out via email. It's online at around 9 o'clock. Maybe if you say 9:30, sometimes it takes a while for stuff to post on the web, and sometimes we're a little late. Like yesterday, I think we got out like maybe 9:10. We were making a lot of changes. Yeah. That's why we say 9:30. It'll be online. And then we actually do a live briefing with our partners at 11. And then we record that. And that's what goes up onto YouTube. Yeah. And we actually do it for the state too. So, we have a state meteorologist, a federal person that's actually embedded with state emergency management. And she actually mirrors us. So she does the same thing for the state, for high level partners, downtown Richmond. Yeah, for state partners. So anyway, that reason I mentioned that, if you go to our YouTube channel, you might see some state weather briefings on there too, because we're doing local forecast briefings and also state briefings. Yeah, good question. Right, I'm glad you're checking it out. So they're fun.
The snow events, the last 2 weeks, I kept going down rat holes, and you're one of my favorite rat holes.
Yeah, no. They've been a struggle. I mean,
so much data.
right.
Data presentations have improved so much over the last couple of years.
Right.
Probably since you.
I came in 2011, so I've been here a little while. There is.
I stumbled on.
Yeah, check out you guys check out our YouTube channel, because every Monday and Thursday we always do a briefing. And anytime there's bad weather, we put one online on YouTube as well.
A couple of live ones and discussions.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Because we're a small staff. We've only got 22 people. So we're a small.
Yeah, that's above my pay grade. I don't know. But it's fine.
What's that?
This problem is here funding.
Oh, I mean, so
There are rumors there.
yeah, I mean, the way it stands right now, we're funded, and we're actually funded pretty well right now. There was talk about, how things might go, but my understanding is, I don't get too involved in that, but some things got put back in, and I think we're, it's not like we're just living high on the hog, but I think we're okay for right now. It goes from year to year to year. We weren't part of the shutdown that happened, or this last one, the one before we were. The one this last one we had, this partial government shutdown, so we're under Department of Commerce. So the Commerce budget was approved. So we didn't get caught up in that. And I think there are some, like DOD and DHS, they're only partially funded right now. They expire like in 2 weeks or something. But so we're not caught up in that. The previous government shutdown, we were the big long one. Yeah, I mean, we do, but we keep working. We don't stop. Our staffing doesn't stop. I mean, we're 24/7, so we don't. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it's always been. And a lot of it gets into pivoting, the balance of how much you forecast versus how much you start providing additional services, and more interpretation. I call it weather intelligence. So finding that balance between weather intelligence and forecasting. That's where we are right now. And we'll see what the answer is. People have different thoughts on that. Yeah. So good questions. I will say the models have definitely struggled this winter. I mean, the winds have been done good. I mean, think about the wind forecast. We really haven't had any surprise blows. When we said it was going to be blow, it's blown. So it's weird, because you get parts of the forecast really right, nail it head on. Even the last event, timing of the snow was pretty much dead on. The temperatures were dead on. The models are just, they have struggled big time with precipitation accumulations, how much you're going to get, and sometimes even what you're going to get. And it's been kind of interesting. I think it's going to be seeing what folks, when they go back and look at this winter season and they see how much things struggled. Even this last event we just had, we didn't get snow. And I think the models across the board, they were saying 1/2 inch, maybe 7/10 of an inch in Richmond, northwest of Richmond. They have 2 to 4 inches of snow west of Richmond. Nothing had it. None of the models had it. And some of the TV stations were frustrated this morning, saying, I mean, it happened on a Friday night, so didn't impact too much, but nobody was expecting 3 to 4 inches of snow in areas. And it's a clipper. It wasn't a coastal low. You know what I'm saying? It was just a northwest clipper coming across the mountains. And it just became super productive and just had a dump of snow west of Richmond, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches. I mean, we put up a winter weather advisory yesterday afternoon and went up to like 2 inches in some areas. And they got some places double that. It's been a struggle. It's hard for me to put my finger on why why it has been a struggle,
I think it's always
this
been-
season.
What I've seen is like, you have to have everything come together for this exact forecast, but if you've got a little bit colder temperatures, a little bit drier air, and they've just really struggled with, it's an aspect of the forecast. They've gotten most things right, but that aspect impacted everything. So I don't know.
You got 100 years of the model-based prediction with the jet stream at a particular location. And then you get a weakening and it's way down here and everything's different.
Well, and another thing that screws up snow especially is, when you start talking about models, I won't go on the model battle too far, but you're talking about snow and sleet and ice and stuff. Everything is basically mathematical equations, right? I mean, it's not like the Oracle and we're just looking at a ball saying, tell me, everything is being governed by mathematical equations. And in there, all models have a certain amount of assumptions that are made in these equations and variables. So when you start talking about snow, a lot of the snow accumulations are based off a 10-to-1 snow ratio, a 10-to-1, from liquid to snow. Sometimes the ratio is 20-to-1. Sometimes the ratio is 6-to-1. So in reality, so a lot of models are making a lot of assumptions. Same thing with sleet and freezing rain. It's like a switch, right? So if it sees one little thing in the model, it says, okay, well, the temperature is now, aloft, you've got a 10-degree warm nose or 8-degree warm nose, but the temperature at the surface is, let's say, 25, freezing rain. Okay, so it's got to be freezing rain. Well, the last event, the models were going nuts with freezing rain, and it was a classic freezing rain pattern for Richmond. It was, and we were scared to death. Y'all saw what happened in Mississippi and Tennessee. Those places look like war zones from ice, right? All these trees down. So they looked like that was going to extend up into Virginia. And so we were prepared for it. I mean, and so was Dominion Power. Everybody was looking at half an inch of ice inland. Richmond back towards Carr Lake, back towards Roanoke, a huge area potentially of ice. And the precipitation came, the timing was right. It started when it was supposed to start as snow, it transitioned, warm air came in, and it melted the snow as it was falling. And we got lucky enough where the snow melted and it would have been freezing rain. It was 10 degrees above freezing over our heads. So the snow melted. And then as it fell, it looked like it was going to be freezing rain, right? We were thinking this could, it's not going to have chance to refreeze because the warm air is going to be too deep. Does that make sense? But by the time it hits the surface temperature is going to be like 25 or 24. That's a very dangerous place to be because that's a very efficient freezing rain. Fortunately for us, the Arctic air in the lowest level, and we're talking probably the lowest 1,000 feet of the atmosphere, was so cold. It was such an Arctic air mass that when that raindrop was falling, right before it reached the ground, it would literally freeze into ice. And so we got a ton of sleet. They got 2+ inches, 3 inches of sleet up in Richmond. They were probably within maybe just a degree or two of that being freezing rain. I mean, in the lowest 1,000 feet of the atmosphere, probably it was probably that close. It had to be that close. I mean, it was very, very close. So, models just aren't that good. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's like the event happened, and because we got snow that changed over to 2 inches, 3 inches of sleet, and then a little bit of a light glaze on top. That's why you all heard how bad the roads were in Richmond, right? I mean, it all compacted down into ice skating rink material, and VDOT couldn't do anything about it because you can't plow ice, right? I mean, the blades just float on top. So that's why Richmond had such a big problem. So it could have been a huge power problem. I mean, fortunately, because of sleet, it was just a massive travel problem, with the roads. But it was just really slight minutia. And that's where even AI is not going to, that's where it's like, we talk about how good is it really going to eventually be. And it's good. We're still going to always be engaged, but even when we're looking at everything, sometimes you just don't know till it does it, and so there's degrees of accuracy. Does that make sense? Like everything happened. They just got a lot more sleet than freezing rain and nobody complained, right? Because I mean, they didn't like the roads, but they didn't want power outages lasting weeks in the tree damage. So we got lucky. The last snow event here was real frustrating because the models, sometimes we say the models giveth and the models taketh away. And that's exactly what happened. They were giving us snow and then all of a sudden, boom, they said, no, you're not. And actually they got the snow. If you wanted to see snow, Elizabeth City got the snow, right? 6 inches. About around the border, they got about maybe 3 to 4. And you got up here, there was nothing. And what killed us, I don't know if you guys noticed, like I was in Smithfield, it was snowing pretty good there for a while. This not last night, but the previous snow event. It was snowing pretty good for a while. As soon as that north wind picked up, it got breezy at my house. I got that north wind. As soon as that north wind picked up, the snow shut off. It was, and the dry air came in. And so it was snowing. It was just drying up before it got to the ground. But as soon as that north wind picked up, it stopped snowing at my house. I was hoping to get like 2 or 3, and my daughter was disappointed because I was like, as soon as that breeze picked up and I looked outside and it wasn't snowing, I say, yeah, we're done. And it just shoved all the snow. Basically, the dry air kind of pushed it further south, but we still got the snow amounts in North Carolina. I mean, they got a lot of heavy snow. So it's hard because people see the weather as what happens in their backyard. The reality is degrees of accuracy, right? It's like the event happened, maybe it just didn't happen right exactly where you were, the way we thought it was going to happen. So that's meteorology. I talked on too long. Any other quick questions, or thank you guys for having us. Awesome. And if you got follow up, just you can shoot us an email or shoot it through the club, and we can shoot you all some of the links we talked about.
Okay, well, Jeff, Nancy, thanks for coming. I really do appreciate this. I think everybody,
Watch it for just. I'm gonna like see the script.
it's okay. Just want to give you a
Oh,
little
thank you.
token of, sorry, it's not a Yeti, but it's close.
No, you're good.
Uh,
Love my coffee mugs.
yeah, and, love to have you come back in about 2 years when you've got upgrade, unless you got something better.
We can come talk about thunder. I mean, we don't have to go this long. If you guys want to come out and like talk about thunderstorms or show some of the.
All right, well, we'll,
We
take
can
some
talk about
inputs from the
lightning.
club.
Do anything.
I will say, you also be smart if anyone's interested. There is. If anyone.
You can just reach out to us.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest way, but.
Yeah, so basically just go to our website all the way down. And let's see, actually, I'm lying.
Maybe on a local program.
I think it's in local programs.
Yeah,
So
it should be
office tours. So what you gotta do is click on office tours under local programs on weather.gov/AKQ. And what comes up is an outreach. And so just basically fill this out. So, and you don't have to be a group. It can literally just be yourself. And we will still accommodate that. So yeah, just go ahead and fill it out if anyone's interested. And someone will get back to you. So
Yeah, we can hit about maybe 20, 22 in our conference room.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge conference room, but if we get tight, you can get 20 some people.
Yep. So just want to
Okay.
put that out there.
Well,
Thank you very much. A reminder to the group, next week is Norm,
I've
first
got
aid.
another public service announcement.
Okay.